Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the 13th International Documentary and Short Film Festival of Kerala, organized by the Kerala State Chalchitra Academy. Now, we have the in conversation with C. Ajoy, Executive Director of IDSFFK and the Secretary of Kerala State Chalchitra Academy, and Christo Tomy, Fiction Jury Member. Now, I welcome the guest onto the stage to begin the session.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody. I am Ajoy Chandran, Secretary of Kerala State Chalchitra Academy and Executive Director of IDSFFK. I am really glad to be seated alongside Mr. Christo Tomy, who is a fiction jury member and also one of the most promising talents produced by the state of Kerala. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Years back in 2014, you came to this festival, IDSFK, with your music video. You are wrought and recognized here. Some 7 years down the line, you are sitting here as the jury member. Of course, I think your foray into the field of films is not by chance, but by choice. Born in Kottayam, studied mass communication in Maravianu's in Trivandrum, packed your bags, gone to Calcutta SRFT. I don't know whether I can say you have tasted success now. And this festival, there are a lot of aspiring filmmakers who are looking upon persons like you. I wish you could share the experience of this journey until now.
First of all, it's a great privilege, to be here as a jury member. Like you rightly mentioned, I was here with my films like 7 years back. That is also one of the first times we are showing. I've made my films in the institute as part of the academics, and the first time in 2014 I came here with actually 3 of my films, like my 1 short film and 2 music videos. So that is the first time we are showing it in front of a massive audience. Like I think the screening happened in Kairali at that time, so there was a huge crowd for the films. So it was very interesting to know how the audience kinds of reacts to it, because in the institute you are in a very protected environment, and you're also in a mind space where you're like, I would make whatever I want. I don't care about how the audience reacts. From that kind of space, coming into a very interacting with the public and knowing the response was very was a great experience actually. And you are not born here, but I was like a bit scared, to come here with the film, because it was very, it has so much violent images, and even with Christianity and all that, the images are quite disturbing for a lot of people. But the response to it has been surprisingly great. Like many people, even would meet me down the streets and, talk about the film and all that. So, that experience has been really great. And coming here, like after 7 years, the journey has not been easy at all. If I known, it would have been this difficult. I don't even know if I'd have chosen this journey. But it feels great to be back here, as a jury member.
The same point which you have just taken up, like the short film Virgin, Kanyaga, or the music video You Are Wrought, you are entering into the ecosystem of religion, and in such instances there should be ripples, resonances, or even repercussions. I have seen some comments like this is all against Christianity. So it's a very, very tough area to enter into. So what is your feel basically regarding this?
See, when I was making a Virgin, I mean, although it's based, in a convent and all that, I don't think it's much disturbing to people who follow Christianity. So I was not worried about Virgin, and the film also came out in a space where, like, I grew up in a convent school. Like, I used to study catechism class in a convent school, and at that time, there was this dark alley which leads to the convent, and we are not allowed to enter like past that dark alley. So I was always curious about what lies, ahead, like inside that convent, how the life would be. I was curious, so I also studied in a convent school also. So the sisters and the life kind of has interested me from that very early age. So Kanika was a reaction to that. So I wanted to explore their life and their daily routine, and why would someone give up their pleasures of life, like materialistic pleasures, and choose something like this. So that question kind of intrigued me right from the beginning. So but coming to Your Road, again, it was a very experimental film. It came out of a different context, so we wanted to do something that is very pop culture-ish, and with images that are quite disturbing. There are a lot of violent sequences and all that. So I was kind of afraid of how this would be perceived, and I was also constantly thinking about my responsibility towards society and all that also. Like, I should hold the material, like I should be responsible for the material. So also while shooting, it was not an easy shoot. There was pigs, and we had to shoot with the pig, and it won't stay where it has to stay, and we had to drag, and there was a lot of things, and there was nudity and all that. So my friend acted in the film also. So I was constantly, as a filmmaker also, I was thinking kind of is it right for me to push these people or even the animals to go through this cruelty to make the film. It was difficult. It was a difficult shoot also. So and after finishing the film, coming here also, like, my mother kept asking me to show the film which won the IDSFFK Best Music Video Award, but I was quite scared to show her because of the violent images and nudity and all that. But finally I showed it to her, and she asked me, like, what did you mean by this? But the response to it from people, like many film school students or even the young audiences from Kerala, has been very positive. So while making films about that nature, and especially in today's society, I think the society has got much more polarized, and there are a lot of problems makers and producers and directors face because you are dealing with religion and all that. And especially when you're releasing a film in the theater or in an OTT, which is where much wider public has access to it, I think it's a very tricky area to be in. And I think a lot of filmmakers are also taking a step back and thinking about whether it's really worth going through all this legal hazards, and how public react to it, like they burn down the theaters and all these things happening. So it's a very tricky area to be in, but at the same time it's also important to make those films. So I mean, yeah.
Like what you have said, there are a lot of curbs happening on artistic and creative expressions. Many fringe groups, religious sentiment groups, are coming out with various onslaughts on even artistic expressions. So, have you experienced something personally, or what is your opinion regarding these things happening, the curbs on this freedom of expression as such?
Personally, I have not experienced any attacks or anything because of the films I made. There have been comments and people have commented, but if I don't like something, I kind of ignore it. That's it. But I have not faced much problems because of that. My opinion about, of course, artistic freedom is that, like, we should be able to make any kind of films. I don't think there should be any censorship in content. It's only when we make and all kind of films, the process also become much more democratic, and you know, you don't have to get offended by something you don't like, right? You know, you have the right to ignore it, you know, but it's important to have conversations about everything. So it's quite disturbing to say that in this country now it's very difficult to make a certain kind of films, or you know, political issues, or you know, even to make films about religion and all that. It's very sensitive, so that's quite sad. We as a society should, you know, grow and you know, become much mature, so that you know, we can even watch films which kinds of disturbs us and questions us. You know, I hope that we grow to that stage as a society.
Even digital platforms are being monitored, and those people fear to be judged or being blamed on various portrayals. So some groups are coming with the idea of self-censorship. What is your opinion about such an idea? If at all we are against censorship, the system should remain democratic. But at the same time, the self-censorship, the idea of self-censorship on content, what is your opinion regarding this?
You mean from the filmmakers or the producers? Like,
there are few groups coming up with such ideas, like of some affirmative actions or some self-censorship. The issue is coming, a lot of opinions are coming out from society itself.
I mean, it's up to the filmmakers whether to, like, what kind of films they want to make. I believe that the filmmakers, if they want to, you know, they don't want to talk about it, then that's their, you know, thing. But there should be an environment where people are able to make films about anything freely, and there should be an environment where, you know, all these films or books or whatever, you know, literature can be discussed in a cordial manner, where, you know, there is constructive criticism. There is, you know, you don't have to agree in everything with everything the other person is saying, or you don't have to you know, like what the other person is saying, but you also doesn't have to, you know, kind of burn theaters, or you know, get into that kind of space because you don't like something that other person is saying. So I mean, a lot of censorships happen also, like, you know, as a filmmaker, you also want to make films which would you know, which is easy to mount, like, you know, where you are able to get investors. So if I'm going to make a film about religion or you know, politics that is quite sensitive, people will be you know, kind of hesitant to invest in it also, because they know that it would invite trouble at some point. So I mean, that is always there. Yeah, I think it has always been there at one level or the other, and I think it will always be there. But also the job of an artist or a filmmaker is how we navigate these kind of things. Like in Iran, there are a lot of restrictions on making political films, but they have found a way to deal with it, like making films about with children and all that. So all these challenges, I think, will keep coming up in different forms or the other in the future also. But it's about how we as filmmakers or artists or writers kind of find creative solutions and way to address these problems, bypassing the restrictions or censorships that are there.
Likewise, political correctness. The term itself has come to the fore now. When you are venturing into some creative manifestation, you would be judged based on political correctness. What is your take on that?
Well, I mean, like, I mean, when I'm making a film, like I'm making a film with, if it's a fiction film, there are a lot of characters in it. There's something that very interesting that Hemingway said, that I'm not responsible for what my characters say. So, you know, what a filmmaker or writer is responsible is what the film, kinds of, what the politics of the film is at the end of it. You can't be responsible for what every character say, or, you're even your main protagonist may say things which are not politically correct, you can't make all your characters politically correct, or, say things which are only, okay. But it's important that what is the kind of politics that the film say or the filmmakers is coming up with, and he or she has to be responsible for it and own up to it. That's it. That we should also be aware of, if you are saying something, as a film, like if you're giving, saying something that is not politically correct, then how that the filmmaker should be able to own up to it is what I feel. When I'm making a film, I don't think about these things too much. What I think is, am I, staying true to the story that I'm saying, and am I saying it with the maximum impact that it can be said, and am I, honest to my subjects and my characters and all that. These are the things I'm, more concerned about.
We are discussing about OTT platforms. We have a lot of platforms here in Kerala also. Some of them have good footfalls. Many of them are gasping for birth. What is your feel regarding the OTT platforms? Whether some consolidation will come into the sector, or do you have any? You are into making a docu-series for Netflix, and what is the freedom you are getting if you are in for a work for an OTT platform? Whether you get the creative freedom to do as much you do for a film or a documentary which you are doing or done in the past?
See, I think, everybody comes, like every organization or every individual producers or investors come up with their own, there are advantages and disadvantages both, like whether it's OTT or, it's how you navigate those things at the end of the day that matters. Like if you're making a film, if you're making a documentary on your own with your kind of funding or a private fund, you get it funded by FD, or you get private investors to fund for your film, then you would have a certain kind of freedom while making the film. But when you're making it for an OTT platform like Netflix, or when it's a commission project, it's a different ball game altogether, because they are very certain about the kind of film that they want to make, the way they want to make it. So at every level, at every stage, you have to constantly negotiate with them, even with every direction that you take. Finally, with the film that I'm making, finally they have the creative call. It's if they don't like something, they can say, we don't like it, you have to change.
You have to make some or the other compromises, even whether they can intervene in a script also. That is what I want to ask you.
Yeah, basically, it's not about it's not, you can't call it an intervention. It's creative collaboration. Of course, the lines are very vague, and the collaboration can mean anything. But see, whoever you work with, when you're working with feature film with producers and actors, they would have suggestions. And actors can come and say that, I want things to be done this way and not that way, or, I want my character to, have a certain scene, and, I won't do a certain scene, and all that. It happens with, I think, at every level of filmmaking. And even with Netflix, it's a different kind of negotiations and all that. It's a, it's a creative collaboration. But you're making a film, when I signed on, I am very aware that I'm making a film for them, that finally they have to be satisfied with what I'm delivering. If they're not satisfied, then things are not working right. So it's about they may say something is not working. It's up to me to find the solutions. I don't have to always take up their solution. It's about me finding solutions that would appeal to me, or that I'm okay with. The only way you don't have to deal with all these things is you fund yourself and make a film yourself with new actors. Then you might have all the freedom in the world. But then again, then you might not have the kind of distribution that you get, or you might not get a lot of other things that you're getting in a film when you're doing a film for Netflix, or with big actors or producers. So it's always the question is always, what do you want? What do you value more? Whether it's your freedom to do what exactly you want to do, or whether the production value of the project, or it reaching a bigger audience, or it get distributing much more massively, or things like that. So finally, it's a call as a filmmaker, like what's your what do you value more?
When watching Virgin and Sweetheart, Kanyaka and Kamuki, both are women-oriented subjects, women in lead characters. Whether you have come to this plots, whether it was by coincidence or intentional, taking up the cause of, we are talking about gender sensitization of society, an orientation towards women emancipation and things like that are discussed in society. And as also, it is now getting extended with the trans and LGBT community also coming into the realm. So whether it was coincidence or intentional.
I mean, it was not intentional at all. Like, I have been asked this question many times, even when I won national awards, like, why both the films have female protagonists. I've thought about it a lot, but, when I was making Kannika, it was about the nuns and all that. And yeah, of course, you can ask, why didn't I make about community of priests? But I believe that at the, nuns in a convent, the rules are much more stricter, and they live a much more, life with much more stricter rules and all that, while the priest had much more freedom, even with their finances, or even with the way they can move and all that. But nuns had a very restrictive life. So I thought, when you're dealing with people who are like bound by much stricter rules and all that, the scope of drama is much more. And also thought, visually and cinematically, I thought it was much more interesting to look at the life of nuns. Also because it intrigued me much more at that stage. While coming to Kamagi, even my music videos had female protagonist, you wrote. While about Kamagi, the same thing. Like, it's about somebody who has gone through a breakup, and is not over it, and now he's trying to get back that love she or he has lost. Even at that stage, I thought, in a society that we live in, it's much more difficult for a woman to navigate those things. So I thought that then the drama would be much more, and the nuances and the layering would be much more. That's how it was a female protagonist. But all these things have happened accidentally. Like, I have not been aware of these things. It's much later that when people ask me, that I think back and see how we can answer it. While doing the film, there was no other there was not even a question of whether it has to be a boy or a girl in Kamugi, or it has to be a priest or nuns in all this has happened very organically. I was not even aware of that I'm doing this. Even my feature film, actually, the one that I'm planning to make, has a female protagonist, and it has been very hard to mount the project in Malayalam. Like, I tried getting producers 4-5 years back. At the time, many were hesitant because it had a female protagonist. Right now, things have changed. A lot of films have come up, even in Malayalam, with female protagonists. But at that time, it was much more difficult, and people were, producers were very hesitant the moment I told them that it has got a female protagonist. And again, it just happened. I was not very aware, like, this is what I'm doing. Again, it's about relationships, and it's about a relationship a woman has. So I think the same things would have led me to have a female protagonist, that in our society, life is much more difficult for them than for us. Even when we have a relationship, or even when it's about our careers, I feel like woman's choice or woman's journey is much more difficult than ours. So that is why even my feature has got a female protagonist. But I was not aware, or I was not thinking about these choices that I was making. It just came out naturally. But while making my film, while trying to get the finance for my film, I had a producer at that stage, and I mean, she was a woman, and she told me that, please, Christo, next time, don't write a film with a female protagonist, because, it's so difficult to get it funded. So at that time, I decided, okay, so yeah, but things are slowly changing. And it's also, when you make a big film, you want to, all the producers want to have a star attached to it, which kind of, who can kind of, justify the fund, budget of the film. So it's a very tricky equation that way. But I hope things change. It has changed a little bit, but I hope, it becomes it becomes an industry where, where the content becomes the most important deciding factor. But at the same time, I'm sure that, it will be also an industry where stars, kind of drive it.
As you said, content is the deciding factor, and we have more become content consumers. Like in this pandemic period, most of the festivals have come to a halt, and people during the lockdown period and its aftermath, people started watching movies at homes on digital platforms. On people glued into their handsets and all that. And in Kerala, we have had the 25th IFFK even at the time of the pandemic. And now also we could do it, IDSFFK, with some 1,000 delegates attending. But you have been traveling outside to various festivals with your films. What is your opinion regarding the future of film festivals?
I mean, when I started out, like when I joined the institute and when I wanted to make film, all I dreamed of was, getting screened at a major international festival. I mean, I didn't care much about releasing the film in theaters or, taking to an audience. I believed in a certain different kind of films at that stage. So festivals were the only thing that I looked up to at that stage. But, I mean, during my journey, I also realized that, like I told you now, like if you have to make a film here in Kerala, you have to tick certain boxes. Like, it has to have commercial elements, it has to be either it's, whatever, maybe a humor subject is easy to mount, or, it has to have a story that kind of attracts stars and, get stars on board so you can justify the budget. So there are, and even with the story wise, there are certain boxes you have to tick. Of course, filmmakers kind of push this now and then, and there has been very interesting projects that has come up, especially in the last few years. But still, in the larger picture, you have to tick certain boxes. And my little experience I have with festivals or, all this is that it also has kind of certain different kind of boxes. It's just not the same boxes, but they also have that, a different kind of boxes that you have to tick if you're if you're trying to get funding from festivals or foreign markets and all that. And while taking the films to the festivals also, you need to have certain kind of connections. It's also about networking. I have attended many, I've talked to many curators and all that. It's very difficult to just send your film to a festival and hope that, I'm talking about the feature films, like just send make a feature film and just send it to Cannes or Berlin and hope that your film will get selected. Because like thousands of films come there, and the jury or the screening committee won't be able to give equal attention to all these films. So making a film and just sending it there and expecting it to get selected is a bit childish to say. What you have to do is that there has to be a lot of you have to the films has to have like even while before making the film, you need to have maybe you have taken your film to the market, certain festival markets. You have fundings from certain films, so they will look at your film when your film reaches there for the final screening. Or you would be in touch with certain kind of programmers who would like ensure that your film is watched when it gets there. So there are a lot of those things, and also festivals also look at, they are also interested in to look at certain kind of content, certain kind of subjects, certain, like each festival has also got a different kind of films that they kind of support. Like certain festivals support more of experimental or films that deals with form or experiments with form and style and all that. Maybe certain other film festivals give more importance to content. So also again, when it comes to content, you have certain kind of contents that would find a like refugee issues or things. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that whether you look at a theater audience or whether you look at a festival market, there are certain kind of boxes, and there is a certain kind of things that you have to do to get your films reach that stage. You cannot just believe that, okay, I'll make a good film, I'll just send it to the festival and it will get selected. It doesn't work that way, and that's something that I've realized along the way. And it's up to the filmmaker to choose, like, what is the uh, industry, or what is the whether it's a local industry or it's a festival circuit that I want to navigate. And also when you make films, more and more films, and your profile gets better, and you have much more visibility, then things become much more different for you. Like, I'm talking about a filmmaker who is starting, but when you have a body of work behind you, and people maybe festivals have already heard about you, maybe the programmers have already heard about you, then it becomes a different thing altogether. But uh, but everybody has got something that they're looking for, whether it's whether it's theater, whether it's festivals, whether it's whatever.
Because a lot of aspiring youngsters are here. They want to become filmmakers, and for them, such an advice from your end would be very helpful. So I think you have made it a point that festivals still have the relevance and they are here to stay, because during the pandemic period, a lot of the festivals are rescheduled, cut short, or gone the digital ways. But the physical conduct of the festivals, such festivals have relevance. That is what you want to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, festivals, I mean, I look up to it. I look up to the films that comes into this, like, get selected in these festivals. So I also dream of taking my films to these festivals. It would be a dream come true if the films get selected in the big festivals. Also, it's a great thing to take your films to different parts of the world. Not even if it's not the A-list festivals, there are a lot of festivals happening around the world. So to be able to take your films there and interact with those people, it's a great experience. So I mean, it has a relevance, and it will have a relevance going forward also. Pandemic has affected all of us. Like, it's not just the festivals that got affected, the theaters got affected, everything got affected. So I hope that, like, once the life returns to normal, the physical festivals will happen and theaters will open, and everything will thrive. Like, the thing is that it's all kind of films needs to get made. Theaters has to, people has to come to the theaters to watch the films. The festivals has to be successful. More festivals has to come up. More films from ours needs to get selected in those festivals. Everything has to happen so that there is a wide body of work. So yeah, I mean, festivals are absolutely important. Especially for a budding filmmaker, because they also provide a lot of funding. They also provide a lot of mentorship to an upcoming filmmakers, and that experience is very it's invaluable. A lot of filmmakers also able to make different kind of films, experimental films, or that doesn't have stars and all that, because of the funding that you get from the festivals, or the mentorship that you get from these places, or the funding that you get from a lot of these places. So I mean, it's absolutely important on multiple levels, like to make the films that maybe you are not able to make in a theater setup or in a commercial setup in Kerala or at any place. Also, the kind of visibility that you get, also the kind of life experience that you get by taking your films there. So I mean, it's absolutely an important part, and it's something that I think everybody should pursue. Like, get sending your films to the festivals or interacting with it, or all that. I mean, it's absolutely an important part of the ecosystem.
You have been part of this festival as a student. After then representing your film, you have come to this festival. IDSFFK had a very humble beginning in 2008 as an international video festival of Kerala. But over the years, this transformation which you have seen after 7 years in this festival, although we have to restrict our delegates to 1,000, number of 1,000, due to the 50% restrictions in theatre seating. So, what do you feel about this festival of Kerala, this documentary and short film festival of Kerala? And you have seen a lot of content also. You have watched a lot of short films and all. Fiction, you have seen a lot of films, and about the content and also the participation of the delegates. What do you feel about the festival?
I mean, it always feels great to be here. This is a place that I grew up watching films. Like when I was I studied in news. That time I used to come in the night and watch films at IFFK. Even when an exam tomorrow, we would carry the books and study, standing in queues to the theaters and, watch the films. So it's always feels like homecoming, coming to the festival and, being part of this crowd. And also the pandemic has affected all our lives. This is also the first festival I think I'm being part of after the second wave and all that. So it feels like great, to come here and interact and also meet a lot of friends. There's something with the physical festival happening physically, right? And when it's happening online, you can't meet the people, you don't interact physically, and so you always miss something when it's an online festival. So it was absolutely a great experience to be here, meet friends, and also watch a lot of films. There are a lot of interesting films that were getting screened, so it's interesting to watch those films also. We have been watching the films from much before, but it wasn't it also opens up your eyes as a filmmaker. As a filmmaker, you're always trying to understand the medium better and learn better and see, okay, this can be done in a different way also, okay, or maybe, this thing can be said with much more nuances than you thought. So you're also continuously learning. So, I'm very happy to say that the films, short films and all that I watched also kind of opened my eyes and also, made me learn things about this craft and filmmaking and all that. So all in all, it was a great experience, coming here, and I hope next time you can do it in a much bigger scale with much bigger participation and all that. Yeah.
Christo, we have discussed about the crime docu-series which you are doing, and what are your immediate future plans regarding feature films?
I was supposed to shoot my feature in June, July last year. It not happened because of the COVID. Even the year before that, the shoot got postponed because of the COVID. It's a film that is set in the monsoon, so we have to shoot during monsoon. So every year monsoons, a wave hits and we are not able to shoot. So and now the artwork is in the midway. So we have to shoot that film fast. So I hope that by next year that I'm able to shoot it. And there are also a few other feature projects that I'm planning to do. So as soon as the docu-series gets over, I hope that I can, these feature films, happen.
Okay, now before we end, we have a Q&A session. I think you can also come up with some questions if you have.
Christo, since you've made so many films with such varied and interesting female protagonists. I'd like to know who have been the women in your life who've inspired you.
Like in my life, I've seen like many women who are very strong. Like my mother is very strong, independent woman. My father was working in Dubai for much of my childhood. So it was my mother who brought me and my sister up while we are living in China Sherry, a small town in Kottayam. So at that time, it is difficult to kind of it's the situations was much more different than it is now. But we lived in an independent house, and she brought both of us up. And like a lot of women around me, like my grandmother, my sister, and my mother's sister. So all these women, by how they kind of transformed themselves to adapt to the situations and kind of live up to the challenges that they face, I think has been something that I have lived with. I wouldn't say it was all the time very inspiring because I was a lot of times at loggerheads with my mother, and I have a lot of fights with my mother because she's very opinionated. She has a very strong value system about certain things and religion or the way you should live your life and all that. So I've been like fighting that from the childhood, but it's also important to see like what they have gone through in their childhood, or what they have the kind of life they lived, and they think the kind of life they you should live. So all these women who have been like part of my life have influenced me, and have been constantly have to negotiate or fight with them about value systems or religion and all that. So yeah, so all that I think has come up in my films in different forms.
Hello, Christo. My question is, with the COVID wave, we have seen a new wave of OTT wave 2. How do you observe the transition from big screen to a small screen at your mobile phone or your personal computer? How do you see the transition?
Yeah. I mean, as an audience, I always prefer watching a film in a theater because it gives you such an experience, and so I would prefer that. But I would like say it is a great thing that the OTTs have uh, uh, gained much more ground because of the COVID. Because I think it's during the COVID that people started subscribing to Netflix or Prime, or and also a lot of OTT channels or OTT platforms came up during this COVID time. So that was a great thing. Also, a lot of films that would not have got the visibility that they got, they got is just because of the OTT platform. When you're releasing your films in the theaters, you might, if you don't have big stars, you may not get the slot that you want. Like your screenings would happen right in the morning at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and big films with stars would get screened in at 6 or 9. So when your films are there on OTT, it gets people across the country can watch it anytime they want. So a lot of good films, I think, got visibility just because OTTs kind of gained a lot of ground during the pandemic. So it is a great thing that they're here, and I think it helps make the filmmaking process a much more democratic thing, especially distribution, because you can, because of the digital transformation that has happened, you can make a film very cheaply. But what do you do after making a film? You don't have anywhere to distribute it when it's the monopoly is with the theaters. So with the coming of the OTT, and a lot of local OTT platforms also come up. So I think it's a great thing that's happening. At the same time, I think people also have to stop watching films in Telegram and all that, and subscribe to the channels and platforms and watch the films, so that the filmmakers are also supported, and a lot of small films also get supported.
We are. You have a question.
Christo, you being a subject ray, luminous and independent filmmaker, I am asking you on a continuation of that question, OTT experience. It is many like Steven Spielberg believes that OTT limits the visual experience. Take the instance of a Hitchcock movie like Psycho. It should be in widescreen rather than in OTT, because we will miss the visual experience. And another second question is regarding censor board as a big brother, as panopticon. What is your take on censorship being a panopticon or a big brother watching, or it is sterilizing the creativity of an independent filmmaker? These are the questions, and what is your take on both of these?
Regarding watching the film in the theaters, of course, I said earlier that I love watching the films in the theaters, but I think it's much more important to give, it's much more important that the small films get platforms to showcase their films to the world. So I think OTT is very important that way. And regarding the second question regarding the censorship, yeah, I mean, I don't think there should be a body that censorships films. There should be a body that, there can be a body that rates the films, like maybe, it's, the children below a certain age can't watch it and all that. But I don't think there should be a body that censorship films, or there should be a body that says, what films can be watched out screened and all that. So, but sadly, that's not the situation here.
So we have to wind up, as this is a time for the screening. I think in conversation has become the integral part of our festival, and it has become more relevant with people like Christo, Tomy partaking in such sessions. I think this has become a very fruitful discussion, and we all share most of the opinions, observations shared by Christo, and I think we have to end this nice session now. Thank you, Christo. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.